Did you know growing fresh, nutritious food at home does not always require a big outdoor space? This is my third year of indoor gardening, and it has been quite satisfying and very nutritious. I prepared a short series on microgreens and sprouts to show you how easy you can also do it at home. Let's dive into it, and I'll briefly explain the differences between the two. This is part 2 of growing sprouts and microgreens. Today it's all about microgreens. Microgreens are crunchy, flavorful, and packed with nutrition. They are grown in soil or other grow mediums such as these hemp mats. You can use any edible seeds, so the possibilities are endless. They are very flavorful compared to a full-grown plant and are usually ready in 5 to 10 days. I use these shallow trays that have ridges in the bottom. I add some fresh soil and pack it down. You can measure for bigger seeds, but I like to just sprinkle the seeds around, and the smaller seeds can stay on top of the soil while you can insert the medium and larger seeds just under the top of the soil. I spray my trays but not overwater them. I add a dome for the first few days and keep it in the dark and lights are off until the plants sprout. It usually takes about a day or two. Then I remove the domes, turn on the lights for 16 hours a day. I do spray these trays about 2 or 3 times a day if possible. With only a few trays, you'll have fresh greens continuously in your kitchen. The results will be in part 4. The next part will be all about sprouts. This is part 3 of growing sprouts and microgreens. Today, it's all about sprouts. Each sprout variety has its own unique flavor and texture and are usually ready in 3 to 5 days and then be kept in the refrigerator for up to 5 days. Pre-soaking your seeds is usually required since the seeds are in a dormant stage. Soaking them will dissolve the enzyme inhibitors and trigger the sprouts to come out. For a small jar, I usually use approximately 1 tablespoon of seeds. I soak them in water in a small glass by covering them to approximately 1/3 of the depth of the seeds. There are many different sprouting equipments for sale, but all you really need is a glass jar and a mesh for the top. The sprouter here looks like a lab experiment, and I find it very small and cumbersome to work with. These large jars with screens are ideal and have a holder that puts them at 45 degrees to drain excess water during the rinsing time. This simple cover from Food Huggers is my favorite and works with various glass jars that you have at home. After you're done rinsing, all you do is empty the water, put it upside down on the cover, and leave it there until the next time you rinse. Now, all you have to do is rinse 3 to 4 times a day with clean, cold water for 3 to 5 days. The results will be in the next part. This is part 4 of growing sprouts and microgreens. I had a few issues with this batch of microgreens and I had some green mold on a few of them, so I had to dispose of 2 entire trays. I did overwater them one morning, so it's super important to remind ourselves to only spray it lightly. You don't want it to be overwatered. That's what ends up happening. The other thing was the hemp pads. It's the opposite. I forgot to spray them one day, so they ended up getting very dry. And the microgreens just did not grow, but I'll try it again. Do not use the soil in the hemp pads again. Just dispose of those in your compost and wash the trays really thoroughly for the next time. These beautiful arugula microgreens will be featured in a pesto recipe in my next video. This was the wheatgrass, and we make healthy shots with them. I've tagged the recipe in the caption. This is an example of the sprouts over a few days. When they are ready, you just rinse them very, very well and then put them back in a jar and store them in your refrigerator with a cover for about 4 to 5 days. If they last that long. You can add them to soup, eggs, sandwiches, anything like that, and you'll add a lot of good nutrients to your meal. I hope you enjoyed this series. Did you know that you can make a delicious pesto with your microgreens? Danielle Feinstone of TO Foodies developed this awesome recipe, which I will try today. The full recipe will be below, but just so you know, I used 1 cup of microgreens. I chose the arugula and 1 cup of the fresh basil that I'm growing in my grow tent. In the 2 cups of microgreens and basil, I added a garlic, a 1/4 cup of almonds, a few tablespoons of olive oil, a 1/4 cup of fresh Parmesan, 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, a bit of salt and pepper. Then you blend it together until you like the consistency. On day 1, I used this beautiful heirloom tomato and I love pesto on toast. So I spread some on a toast covered with a little bit of cheese, and the tomatoes was really delicious. On day 2, I did the exact same thing. It was so good. This recipe is really worth it. I hope you enjoyed my whole series on microgreens and sprouts. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know.